Yeah, but we did it last year. Yeah, I've done a few of them. Like all. That's cool. Yeah. You have to be my mentor. Yeah. What's that? That's cool.
Okay, let's get started. So this is the last item on the agenda, and I purposefully wait to have the students available for you to talk to them so that you candidates will have a range of opportunities and experiences to get information about law school generally, and then talk to students who are going to be where you will be next year. A couple of 1Ls, a second year student, and then also a third year students for you to ask questions of in regard to their own experiences here. Before I ask the students to introduce themselves to you, let you know a little bit about how our proceed today. Shortly, Dean Barbara Dickey, Associate Dean Barbara Dickey will walk in. She's the Dean for Student Services, and I always like her to be here so that if questions come up regarding policies or student affairs, she's a resource that will be here to answer questions. So she'll walk in a little bit. Introductions will be made. I'll serve as moderator to ask questions. Just so you guys know, these guys have been kind of quiet today. I'm surprised that how quiet you've been, I must admit. If I need to ask some questions, I'll ask questions. I'm hoping that they'll have some questions for you. We'll do that for 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes. And then when there's half an hour or 20 minutes left in the session, Barbara and I are going to leave, and then we'll turn off the live streaming just so you can ask whatever questions you want of the students. I always do this every year just so that you guys feel you can ask whatever you want and not be concerned about administrators hovering, either listening to your questions or having a sense that we're hovering over the students to listen to their answers. And we don't come back and ask them what you guys talked about, just so on that, okay? It's part of that making an informed decision that I talked about early this morning. And then I'll come back with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the hour, and we'll wrap things up from there. Okay, fair enough? All right, I've been trying to stretch out time to see if Barbara would show up, but we'll just have to start with that. We'll start with Cole. I've asked students to just talk a little bit about themselves individually for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get to the Q&A from you guys. Cole, you know?
All right, my name's Cole Crowther. I'm from here in Utah, South Jordan, and I did my undergrad at BYU. And then I'm come up here to law school. I'm a 1L. So this is just my second semester right now. My undergrad, I did recreation management, and I think I'm the only person I've ever met that's gone to law school with a recreation management degree. But I've really enjoyed it. I love sports. I love just, I'm not married, so I have a lot of free time. And that's helped with school, but I'm also able to do kind of everything else. I like being in Salt Lake, and I live in Salt Lake now, so I'm real close to the campus and everything. Anything else? All right.
Perfect. So I'm Raj Dhaliwal. I'm a 1L as well, from Murray, Utah, born and raised here in Salt Lake. So also did my undergraduate and graduate work at the University of Utah. My undergraduate work was in economics and international studies, and then I have a master's in public administration. I'm also a big-time sports fan, so college football Saturdays next fall we'll be talking, if you guys are big-time college football fans. Other than that, I think that's the introduction for me. No, not married. Do have a girlfriend, though. So.
He's taken.
Sorry.
My name is Jasmine Fierro, and I'm a second-year student here. I am from American Fork, Utah, so I grew up in Utah County. I did my undergrad here at the U as well. I majored in English literature and Spanish literature, so law school is really different. I am married. I actually got married in between my first year and second year, so planning a wedding during 1L year was interesting. No kids yet, and yeah.
All right.
We're going to do a plug-in for Jasmine. She's a little bit shy in terms of her success. She's also elected to an editorial board position on Law Review. They talked to Chase, so he talked a little bit about Law Review, so I wanted to let them have that context.
All right, so my name is Sean Mather. I'm a 3L. I'm from South Orange County, California. I did my undergrad at Stony Brook University in Long Island, New York. I got a bachelor's in chemistry over there. And I came here directly after graduating. So I'll be graduating in about a month and a half, so I'm pretty excited about that. And what else am I missing here?
Kids, married?
Oh, I'm single, no kids. And after, I'm interested in IP, patent law, stuff like that, litigation.
Raj, did you work before you did your master's?
I did.
Okay, so how many years of work experience did you have?
I'd say 3.
Probably.
Yeah.
Nicole, how about you?
I worked for a year and a half.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of experience back here, so hopefully you have some context. What questions do you guys have? This one.
So why law school and why University of Utah?
We'll start with the 1L and we'll work through the 3L so you can
Which
remember.
one?
Remember why I'm here.
Why law school? First answer that. That's a good question. I didn't go into my undergrad with the plans on going to law school. It was kind of in the back of my mind. I didn't know if I wanted to get an MBA or a law degree. And just kind of going through the process and researching and talking to people, I really felt that a law degree opens a lot of doors to you, even if you don't want to practice law. Whereas an MBA kind of maybe, I don't know, confines you or restricts you in a way. And also, when I got into it and talking to people, I enjoyed kind of the subject matter, and I wanted to, eventually I wanted to kind of pursue that way. And then why the University of Utah? I debated, I had some other options as well, and I'm from Utah. I wanted to stay in Utah, and I knew that the network from this school was so strong within the community, within the city, that it was a high probability of being able to get a job and being able to stay here and practice here. That was one of the big reasons.
Yeah, same thing for me. So I always knew I wanted to go to law school, and the reason I wanted to go to law school was I always felt like those skills that you learn in law school from just, the research that I'd done were transferable, not just in the context of, in a legal career, but also in non-legal careers. And then if you do have a JD, again, from research that I've kind of found, you have the ability to kind of move around, to not just work in the legal profession your entire life. You can kind of move around. So I felt like it was transferable, and that's why I wanted to get a JD. The reason I chose Utah, a couple reasons. The first was it was a great school, ranked highly. Second, it was I wanted to stay in Salt Lake. Again, from the employers that I've been able to interview with, they say that's big, that you stay in Utah if you want to work in Utah. And then the other one was that the proximity to downtown. So we have quick access to these firms, which is important. So I mean, they're always up here, and it's so much easier to get down here. You can still go to class up until maybe like you can leave like maybe 10 or 15 minutes early. But if you're like at a school down south, you got to travel a little farther, which I think is a bit of an impediment. So that's why I chose Utah.
I didn't originally want to come to law school. I actually originally wanted to go into education. I got interested in law school after participating in the honors college at the U. They have like pre-law stuff, and I had my professor was a practicing attorney, and I thought it was really interesting. And I've always loved reading and writing, and you definitely do a lot of that in law school. So that's why I decided to come to law school. And I chose Utah because I had a couple options. I was kind of debating whether to go across the country, stay here. And what it came down to for me was the scholarship offer that I got here. They have really great scholarships available for students here. And also being close to my family. I knew I wanted to stay close by here as an attorney, so like they already said, if you want to practice here, the best thing you can do is go to school in state, so that's why I'm here.
Okay, so I resisted law school at first for a long time. I had absolutely no desire to go. I had a chemistry degree, so going through college, I hadn't really thought a lot about what I was going to do with it afterwards. I played hockey in college, so at that time I thought I was just going to play hockey forever. But I finally realized that that didn't have a future in it, and started thinking, okay, what can I do with a chemistry degree? There's all sorts of, master's or PhD in chemistry. I could go into some sort of health profession like anesthesiology or physical therapy or medicine or something like that. But for me, what I didn't like about chemistry was being in the lab, but what I did like was the problem-solving aspect of it and the analysis that goes into it. So when I started looking around what else I could do with a chemistry degree, what I could do after college, law school kind of started to stick out more and more, despite having resisted it for so long, because of the problem-solving aspect of it and the way that you are supposed to analyze things. And that challenge and all the challenges that are associated with it were the things that drew me to law school, in addition to the fact that I can use my chemistry degree if I pursue patent law. And so it's a way to make me feel like my 4 years didn't go to waste and do something that I enjoy. University of Utah, so I had lived out east for about 6 years before coming here. And like I said, I'm from Southern California. So coming to Utah was, for one, it's closer to home. And two, I didn't go to a school in California because I think at that time, I'd heard all sorts of horror stories about the job market and the economy and how difficult it was to find a job. So I figured if I'm not going to Stanford or Berkeley or UCLA, it would be a lot tougher to find meaningful employment in California. So I started looking elsewhere, and I figured if I'm going to go to a regional school, then I might as well try to find the school where I'm going to have the best chance to get a job. And at that time, when I was looking around, I said, okay, yeah, I can look at all the different schools' employment statistics, but at that time you kept hearing things were skewed, so it was hard to really find reliable data. And so then what I started looking at was just, okay, through this recession, what state has been most relatively stable across the country? And Utah stuck out to me for that. And so the fact that I felt like at the time that it would give me a greater opportunity to find a job as a lawyer in the kind of field that I wanted to do, and the fact that it's a little bit closer to home than I have been in the past were the real reasons I came.
What was the hour load like for your first year? Weekly?
Yeah, that's still fresh on my mind because I'm going through it still. You know what? I came into law school and kind of treated it like a job. I would come in. I do come in about 7:30 each day, and amongst classes and studying, I usually stay until about 5. When it gets closer to finals or when something else due, it might be a little bit longer. And then I would do that Monday through Friday. Saturday, I'd come in for maybe 4 hours, and then I wouldn't do anything Sunday. And so I really just treated it like a job. I would say probably 50 to 60 hours, just depending for me. And it worked for me. It was a good routine, but.
So it depends on what sports are playing for me, but no, during college football in the fall, it's a little different. So the way I would do it is I'd work. I think I got up at like first semester is a little different. You're a little more anxiety. So I think I woke up at like 6:30 every morning, and I got to school at like 7:30, and then I'd get done around 9 every night on the weekdays, and then on Saturdays I just take the entire day off and watch college football, and then Sundays I kind of ease back into the week, maybe do 4 to 6 hours, and then again you ratchet that up as the semester ends. And then this semester I love college basketball and stuff, but it's not as big of a deal, so I'll just work on Saturdays because I don't really have much of a life. So other than that, you just kind of do with what's comfortable, and you get into a groove, and you figure out what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. So, if you want to, like, in total hours, I probably spend between 60 and 70 hours a week studying. I think that's probably, including classes, of course. I feel like that's an accurate estimate.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember the exact hour count, but I think what ends up happening is you spend a lot more time your first semester just because you're getting used to things. You're not really sure how to study. But even just remembering the difference between fall and spring of my 1L year, I felt like I spent a lot less time studying, but it was more effective studying. So that's kind of the way it is. And I think your second year, I feel almost just as busy as last year, but it's different now because it's instead of focusing so much on classwork because you're more efficient at studying, it's actually other stuff like student organizations and law review and things like that keep you busy. So it's just, you have to be good at time management and just know if this week I have a sporting, I don't really, I don't really do that, but I guess with like planning my wedding, that was a nightmare, but I had to you just have to be good at time management and know that if you're going to spend all day one afternoon doing something that's non-school related, you're going to have to make up for that later. You also have to make sure that you're studying as you go. This is not like undergrad where you can wait till the last minute at the end of the semester and just cram. You have to put in the time as you go, so be aware of that.
So I also can't give an actual hour count, but I can tell you my schedule. So I used to wake up at around 6 a.m., get to school by 7, and my day would consist of going to class, trying to get a workout in for about an hour or so, and just studying. And if I was at school, you kind of mix in studying, reading for class, and goofing around, just getting to know your classmates. So you might, read a couple cases or something, and then go chat with your classmates either about life or just about the material if they're in your class. So because I was single and still am single and didn't really have any responsibilities, I was able to kind of take more time to do stuff. I didn't have to be as efficient. There are plenty of people I know who do treat it like a job and do 7 to 5, and go pick up their kids, and they kill law school. I think it just depends on how much time you have and how efficient you are able to be. Those people that are treat it like a job spend less time goofing around like, I can afford to do. But so 1L year, so I'd start at 7 a.m. and I'd probably work until, 10, 11, or 12, depending on what was going on. If I was awake, I was probably, in class, working out, or doing law school. And like Raj, I did not have much of a life, but I would, I would spend my Friday nights, like I said, I played hockey, so I like to continue to play. So I played in a league that played every Friday night. It got me out of the books and kept me out of trouble. And then I would probably take one day a weekend off for the first half of the semester, and the second half I started to just go 7 days a week. It's probably a little excessive. It's really hard to avoid burning out if you work like that. But I think for everybody, it's just knowing yourself. What are your goals? How much time are you willing to give, and can you give? You can find the right balance. There's more than one ways, I think, to be successful, and it's not a hard and fast hour count that'll get you there.
I want to chime in with this and then do a little follow-up question with Jasmine. Everything I've heard, I agree with, and it reflects what I think both Barbara and I have observed over time. And that is, I think we're a little bit different school because of the average age of our students coming in. 27 is the average age. So it's very common for me to hear that people say, I just kind of looked at it as a job because that's kind of what I came from. And I think in kind of the American culture, most people, in spite of what is called a 40-hour work week, usually work 50 to 60 hours a week. And how they parse out that time through the week is very successful. The caution I would give is that some students with, especially families or outside work obligations coming into law school saying, well, maybe, I feel like I'm leaving my employer in the lurch by starting law school. I'll just promise them, 10, 15 hours a week or something like that. Or, I really love being the soccer coach. And that'll take, 5 to 15 hours a week. Law school's very intrusive in your lives. That's just the way it's going to be, especially first semester of your first year. And when it is 50 to 60 hours a week, I think it's a legitimate 50 to 60 hours a week. And the commitments you make are going to just be added to that. So if you're going to work that 10 to 15 hours for your former employer or do these other things, your obligations are now 60, 70 hours a week. And how are you going to work around that? So be realistic with yourself and some of the things you've heard. Before I ask the question of Jasmine, do you have an addition to that?
We
Barbara?
don't have a rule that you can't work during your first year of law school. There is a rule that says you can't work more than 20 hours a week if you're going to school full-time, and that's for all 3 years. No rule that you can't work during your first year, but I strongly advise you not to. If you work during your first year, your grades are going to reflect it. I've never seen that not be the case. If you do have to work, try to find a job where you're manning a desk for something and can use your downtime to study. And don't have babies during your first year.
Jasmine, being married second year, have you seen a difference in terms of your time obligation and how you kind of devote to school and interest and now family at home?
Yes, I definitely. So for 2 reasons. One is because I used to live in Salt Lake. I lived like 15 minutes from here. So there wasn't really much of a commute. Now I live in Lehigh, so right the front runner. It takes me like an hour to get here now. So there's that factor that's made me a little more stressed in that sense, or just pressed for time, I guess. And then also, I guess last year I was kind of more like Sean or Raj, like I would spend time on Facebook or just like watching TV. But now I really do have to be more careful with my time because of the added commute and because I want to make sure that my husband knows that he has a wife that can speak and spend time with him, at least even if it's just like an hour a day. So, I think there is a big difference between being single and being married. And I can't even imagine how difficult it must be for students who have children because you're just always pressed for time. Even if, like I was saying, the responsibilities change and evolve as you're going throughout law school, but you're always just as busy and it's always just as intrusive as they were saying. So keep that in mind.
Good, thanks. Next question.
What are all your guys' career plans, and what are you doing? What have you done, like this summer or past summers?
Yeah, why don't we work backwards?
Okay, so my first summer after 1L year, I worked at a firm downtown. My second summer, I split with that same firm and a firm in Orange County, California, an IP boutique. After I graduate, I'm going to do 2 clerkships. For those of you who don't know what a clerkship is, you're working for a judge and you help the judge research the cases that come before them and help draft the opinions that go with those cases. So it's kind of an apprenticeship before you actually enter the practice of law. So I'm going to do one for a trial level court and then another one for an appellate level court. I don't know if you guys have been introduced to those terms yet, but you will eventually. And then after that, I'm going to go to either the firm that the one here in Salt Lake or the one in Orange County.
Last summer, I interned at the immigration court. So I participated in the clinical program, which you might have heard about, where you can essentially do an internship and earn class credit. So I highly recommend doing that. And then this summer I'll be working at a firm downtown. And I've applied to clerkships. I don't know if that'll work out for me. I'd love to do one. If not, then I mean, hopefully I'll be working at that firm that I'll be working at this summer after I graduate. So that's the plan right now.
So this will be my first summer, obviously, because I'm a 1L, and I'll be working at a firm downtown. Did you want to know work experience prior to law school?
Sure, if you think it's relevant.
I don't, so.
Well, real quick, do you think your MPA played a role in your firm hiring?
Yeah, so I think it did play a little bit of a role. I'm not sure it was a huge role, but I mean, anytime you have something that kind of separates you in some way, it plays a role. I did have questions asked about it. It seemed like they were interested in it. So, yeah, I do believe it played a role.
I'm also this will be my first summer going to work with a firm in Salt Lake here. And as far as goals, I didn't come into law school with like this direct path that I wanted to be, a attorney or work in IP or, become a judge or something. And so I'm really kind of still open to all of that. And I hope this summer kind of exposes me to the different aspects and different areas and see if I'm more interested in one or another. But I am leaning a little bit more towards kind of business and corporate litigation at this point, but that can change.
Suggestion you guys can give us for us who are going to start the classes in the fall, right? What should we be doing now? What should we be reading now? Probably you get that a lot, right?
I mean, I would say enjoy your time right now. For me, that was important for me to kind of, I took a few weeks off even before I came to school. I just played golf, went on some hikes, just kind of hung out. Didn't really try to do too much because I think there's a large learning curve when you get into law school, and I don't know how much you can speed up that learning curve before coming. And so I don't know how much you could, maybe read some books and things that I don't have any recommendations on before school, you guys.
No, I don't. Well, so for me, sleep. Just enjoy your time. I mean, so I got some good advice right before law school. I had a cousin that went to law school and he graduated, did pretty well. I'm like, hey, what should I do before the summer or whatever? He's like, just enjoy. Your life will never be the same after law school. You're always going to be working. You're going to be spending your time. He's like, this is your last summer to actually enjoy yourself. You might as well take advantage of it. The law school will send you like a reading packet. As soon as you get it, just throw that away. Okay? don't do any of that stuff. Just enjoy your summer. Like, don't think about law school until like the week before. Then you're gonna get like anxiety and stuff, and then that's normal. And you're gonna be fine. You're just gonna go through it. But don't worry about reading. Don't worry about preparing. You're gonna be preparing all through law school and then through the rest of your life. So just for one moment, take that time and just enjoy yourself. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think for me it was about, I think you should take time to kind of prepare your friends and family and significant others. Spend as much time with them as you can. Do a fun vacation. Do something fun because your life really does change after you start law school. And so take the time to spend time with them while you can, and then also prepare them for your huge schedule change that will be coming.
Yeah, I echo everything they've said and emphasize a lot about setting expectations with your friends and family and letting them know, realistically that your availability will be different. And so you don't want to be a month into law school and have all your family members upset at you that you're not spending enough time with them. It's an extra piece of stress that you just don't need. I would also try to get all of your life things in order too before coming to law school, whether it's your living arrangements or finances, whatever it may be, just so that when you start law school, you can hit the ground running and all these other things are in place. I would also, so maybe this goes a little bit beyond what you asked, but I would also think a lot about why you're going to law school and keep that in mind before you start. Think about what your goals are for law school. Is that way, you know what you're working towards, and also do some research to know, what do you have to do to get there? For some jobs, there's a certain percentage rank that you have to be in your class, and I think it's worthwhile to know that going in. I would do my research, again, just internet or talking to people, just to find out a little bit what law school is all about. and you know how hard you have to really push yourself and the kinds of challenges that you'll face. So the more you can educate yourself on that and on the job market in general and the things that you want to do and your goals, I think the better prepared you will be, and the less surprises you encounter throughout law school on that front, I think the better. You don't want to, I've had friends that said, a year into law school, gosh, I wish I knew the economy was so crappy when I started. I would have worked a lot harder. Well, Google is your friend, right, on that. So you can find that information out pretty quickly.
Next question. You want me and Barbara to leave that? Yeah. One more we will.
So everyone keeps talking about how different law school is and how there's a big adjustment when you come into it. So I'm wondering if you can kind of go into more of the specifics on how it differs from maybe, the classes that you take as an undergrad. And is it like a way of life or is it a way of thinking? So if you could just maybe go into a little bit more detail.
Sure. Yeah, for me, it's definitely a different way of thinking than my undergrad. And again, you got to keep in mind, my undergrad was recreation management. But no, even with that, it's a different way of learning. You read cases. The professors don't just give you kind of, this is what the law is. You read cases, you kind of pull things out of it, and then you learn how to apply those things in different areas. And it's it's challenging, but it's for me it was it sticks with you. It's actual learning, I feel like, because of the way that it's presented. But it's definitely a different way of thinking and studying than before.
Yeah, it's definitely a different way of thinking, and it is because, like what he said, you do read these cases, and especially your first few weeks, you don't necessarily know what you're reading, or you don't understand the terms, and you're looking up stuff, and by the time you're done looking it up, you're like, what am I reading? And then you fall asleep, and then you read again. But the whole point is, so it is a different way of thinking, and then once you kind of get introduced to thinking, I feel like you kind of get more comfortable your second semester. My first semester, I didn't feel comfortable the entire time, but the way of life too is also part of it, because for the first time ever, like I think a lot of you, like you're probably the best in your class most of the time, but for the first time ever, you're with other students that are just as competitive, just as smart, just as apt, just have just as much ability as you do, and have just as much effort and are bringing it every day. And sometimes you can kind of get lost in thinking about your other students and just focusing on what you can control, and that's why I love sports, and I grew up playing sports, and I felt like that helped me out. It's because I was able to just focus on, what am I doing today, and what are my goals, But sometimes you can see people kind of get lost into, what is so-and-so doing, so-and-so is doing this, or I should be reading this text, and by the end of it, you're doing so many different things, you don't even know what you're learning, right? So the way of life is it's a different way of thinking, but also, you're surrounded with a bunch of highly intelligent people, and it can kind of be a little disconcerting for some people who have never been in that environment before. So.
Yeah, to echo that, I think the biggest difference for me was just you have to kind of manage your expectations, and then also dealing with uncertainty, because we're all probably type A people who we're used to, okay, here's a syllabus, here's what I need to do. If I put in this work, I'll get the A. And it's not like that in law school. It's just you get to learn about the horrors of the curve. And these 4-hour exams, like what my entire grade is based on one exam. So just I think it's the uncertainty, and then also like, how am I going to do? If it is how I'm studying working? What if I don't do well on my exams? Like, it's just things like that. I think your first semester, the best thing you can do is, like he was saying, don't compare yourself to others. Just focus on your own progress and how you're doing. But at the same time, seek help. Talk to your professors. Talk to other students. Because I know my first semester, I felt like I was just working so hard, but I wasn't really seeing much results. And I think that can happen because as an undergrad, you think, no, well, if I work hard, I'll get the grade. And that's not always the case. It's a certain type of work that gets rewarded. I've heard people say that law school is kind of like a game. And as soon as you learn how to play the game, it's not as bad, but it's getting there that's hard, and everybody gets there at a different pace, and you're rewarded based on how quickly you catch on. So students who catch on right away get really good grades the first semester. I actually didn't get decent grades until my second semester, so it's just that. It's just kind of, I think it's just a psychological toll, just learning not to be so hard on yourself, and asking for help when you need it.
Yeah, again, just to reiterate, it's different than undergrad in that I think your grades matter a lot more than in the past, again, depending on what you're doing. So that adds just a bunch of stress and makes people a little crazy, like Raj was talking about. People getting caught up into what everyone else is doing. I think the best thing you can do is to just worry about yourself. I mean, everybody was successful in their undergrad or master's or whatever graduate program they're coming from, and you've all know how to study. I mean, you're not reinventing the wheel when it comes to studying for an exam. It is different, you do have to adjust, but it's not totally foreign to everybody. And like Raj was saying, one thing that I really noticed off the bat was that everybody is really smart. You know, I came in telling myself, okay, I've got to be in X% of my class. After intro week, I readjusted and said, okay, people are really smart. I'll be happy if I'm top 50% of my class. As far as exams go, it's not just a regurgitation on the exam of what you've learned. And Cole was touching on this a little bit earlier. You're pulling concepts out of cases, but you're never just regurgitating that information. It's all about taking those concepts and applying it to a new set of facts. So it's just being able to see the analogies and those kinds of things that is different. It's not it's rare to have multiple choice exams. It's a lot of just essay exams and a lot of writing. As far as a way of life, I mean, we were just talking about how much time we put into it. It's very time consuming. It's very intrusive, like Reyes was saying. In undergrad, you're done with class at 2:00 and it's party time or whatever it is, So it's very different. It's very new. And I would say just embrace it, know what to expect. Just be ready to work a lot harder than you probably have in the past.
I want to add two things, then I'm going to ask Lance to turn down the live stream, and then Barbara and I will leave. I heard it put well by a student who was kind of halfway through spring semester and was having kind of one of those I'm frustrated conversations with me. And what he said basically was, I know what A effort is, and I put in A effort, and the most frustrating thing is you put me in a school where everybody's putting A effort, but then you grade them on this performance, not on the effort, and that's just something that's so new to me. That's why you guys were admitted. You've demonstrated that you have the ability to put in the A effort, but there's a different distribution in how you're measured in performance, and it's not on effort because we expect you to bring it every day. That's the reality of law school, and that's the reality of practice. The second thing for me personally that was the big change was in undergrad I was a big note card guy and a recopy my notes kind of guy, and a little bit that lent itself to the regurgitation method of showing what you learned in class. And so I finally figured out that I was used to having to do something with my hands while I was learning. It isn't necessarily experiential. But the thing that took me a lot of getting used to in the first semester of law school was literally putting down the pencil and sometimes closing the chapter that I was reading and just thinking about what I just thought I learned. And just kind of sitting there thinking. I'd never kind of just done that. And that was something that was new for me in terms of the thought process that goes into law school. And then move forward with, okay, how can I articulate this either in my notes or my brief or my outline? So with that, me and Barbara are going to go. I'll be back at about 5 till the hour. Feel free to ask what questions. Feel free to answer as freely as you want. We'll see you guys in about 20 minutes.